For everybody looking for something fun to do over the weekend, get outside, stretch your legs a little bit. It looks like there's a good spot to spend about, unfortunately, closer to 3 hours of your time with, all the previews and the hustle and bustle, get down there. And anyways, but the Mission Impossible film looks like it's shaping up pretty well. Heard a couple of early reviews on it. Some people absolutely love it. Other people are a little bit more tepid on it, thinking that the action's very good. Some of the characters are, very good, very well presented as well. It kind of falls apart at the seams, and if you were a fan of the series beforehand, you're not going to be disappointed. It might not be the best outing in the 7-part series, but it's still a fairly good offering, and one that looks to be, probably since Super Mario Brothers, the best performing film out of the box office. Will it hit $1 billion? Well, it's definitely got the best chance to, because we got an idea of what the 5-day is shaping up to be. I would go ahead and pull up the numbers because this apparently had, the wider release date of Wednesday, so it'd be going through everything, but don't have any of the numbers of that. I haven't been aggregated, at least at the point of recording, but hey, we'll see what ends up happening. What are the projections on this guy right here? Paramount reported $15.5 million on the Wednesday opening day of Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, which is, that tracks better than just about everything else that has come out recently, especially during the summer. I can't quite remember, but maybe Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was a little bit better. I thought that was maybe 20, maybe 19, but that came out on a Thursday, which is a little bit closer to the weekend. This was on Wednesday, $15.5 million. We're ultimately going to have to see what ends up happening. And like I said, word of mouth is overall positive. There's nobody absolutely dumping on the film right now. It just seems like everybody's at least somewhat pleased to overwhelmingly ecstatic on it. I'm not trying to shill it. I'm not even going to go see it. I don't even think, I've told my story in regards to Mission Impossible. I know people who like it. It's one of those VHS cases that I specifically remember growing up. 1996 Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise's silhouette with the teal outline, the blacked out box with the red lettering across the bottom. That's one of those things that I remember from growing up. So that's about the extent of my fondness for the franchise. Haven't caught any of them, but I hear exceptionally good things for them. So if you're looking for something to do, obviously you're going to be maybe finding a ticket. You might be in tough supply because, in contrast to everything else that's been out recently, Indiana Jones 5, that one's already getting removed from some theaters. But like I said, we don't have the numbers specifically. All we have is just what's being reported from the studio house. Rivals, however, are betting at this point that Dead Reckoning isn't as big as the $90 million tracking purported it to be. Well, a few days ago when we touched on this subject, it also kind of looked like it was projected to be somewhere, at least, what was this, domestically, maybe worldwide. Regardless, worldwide box office was somewhere between 190 and 250 million, and then also domestically it'd be in on around 60 to 70. But for domestic side, but okay, whatever. Be more like $47 million for the 3-day and $70.5 million per industry estimates right now. Okay, the worry here is that if Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny all over again with a very expensive film near $300 million production cost. Yeah, but unlike Indiana Jones, this one has positive word of mouth, and for everything that's supposed to be coming up, this really weird fabricated push for Barbie, which it was kind of funny on social media yesterday. There was a picture of Margot Robbie without any makeup, and that was making the rounds, and it's like, oh my god, somebody called her mid, and you had everybody who was just white knighting for somebody who probably didn't even realize they were going viral on Twitter, nor did they really care. They had more important things to do and spend their time on. Okay, you're out there simping for some bitch who's close to her 40s, and you're trying to say that, no, my queen is just so much more than mid. Okay, cool, get Margot Robbie's name up in the search algorithm and then just artificially inflate the numbers of Barbie and make everybody else forget that this rest of the supporting cast is out there saying that this is just a big trans allegory. Make sure to bring your kids. And then don't even speak about Oppenheimer, because if everybody's already kind of turning their nose up to Mission Impossible being close to 3 hours in length, Oppenheimer is 3 hours in length. It might be a wonderful spectacle to go see, but Christopher Nolan's recent track record has been a bit belabored. to say the least. So, for the industry to be writing that this Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is going to be some way analogous to Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, I'll just wait until Monday rolls around when they're going to have severe amounts of egg on their face because, okay, if you're writing about if you're writing about the entertainment industry and your entire model is centered around some good press, okay, or at least positive review coverage, or just review coverage in general, this is about it. This is going to be the peak. Everything else is going to be a steep drop off after that. And, you know, given the news that we've had here earlier in the day, but later in this video, this is going to be in short supply here for a hot second, but the way that they write the rest of this paragraph, I just have to finish this because it's just so asinine. Yes, trying to say that, yeah, Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny all over again with a very expensive film, near $300 million in production cost, which I don't think that was Dead Reckoning's production. Damn, I guess so. I just did a little research in the background, didn't realize that I have to run these numbers, but apparently the budget is somewhere in the realm, what's being reported, of $290 million. But then that's also mitigated given the fact that Part 1 and Part 2 were also filmed simultaneously, so maybe they'll end up saving some costs on the back end, but it is what it is, man. It's not even the most expensive film that was to come out recently, and then Crown still goes with Indiana Jones, but it at least, off the back of the Wednesday release numbers and then projections after that, and there's a chance on a 5-day basis, this could still be a franchise record start. So yeah, that was never, ever, ever in threat for Indy 5. But yeah, look at the one that's derided as being the worst. Mission Impossible 2 has the best 5-day opening. So yeah, that's way back in the cut after the goodwill that the original had. And then, of course, yeah, Dead Reckoning has the added boost of coming after what everybody else is referring to as being the best in Fallout. So yeah, we'll see ultimately. But like the title of the video suggests, this could be one of the last real bright spots for Hollywood, given the news from earlier today that the actors are going on strike. Hollywood actors strike, it's only going to get worse. So why are the actors striking? Okay, like outside of a couple of very sparse bright spots, Tom Cruise and his productions, and very little else that people are actually looking forward to. Nobody else really looks at the actors and wonders, oh yes, I wonder if they're getting properly compensated. What's the purpose of this strike? Summer blockbusters aren't going to see any actors on red carpets and promotional events. Yes, because everything starting apparently tomorrow gets cut off. So the Oppenheimer cast attended the film premiere in the UK and has just walked off to join the actor strike. So yeah, they moved up the worldwide red carpet release for Oppenheimer in order to get in under the wire. So a little scummy, and also kind of lets you know what kind of headspace the actors or the Screen Actors Guild, or shout out Team America World Police, the Film Actors Guild, their thought process behind this strike is, on Thursday morning vote, the Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, okay, so that's what AFTRA stands for, unanimously decided to strike. On July 14th, the actors will picket, joining their brethren that have been out there for a couple of months at this point. Nobody's really noticed, but okay. The historic walkout comes after contract negotiations with Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, which represents studios, fell apart midnight July 12th, even after a federal mediator was called in at the 11th hour. Yeah, we have more on the government intervention on this, which is another reason that I kind of wanted to talk about this. Contracts were originally set to expire June 30th, but negotiations were extended 12 days. This is the first SAG-AFTRA strike in about 40 years, and the first time both actors and writers have been on strike together since 1960. The guild leaders described the crossroads as an existential one and one that many industries face. Okay, namely the technology eclipses human contributions. Yeah, I've heard a couple of ideas as to why the actors are striking. Mostly it's due to fair compensation, but the biggest thing, which is also why the writers are on strike, which, given their output recently, like there's been some decent performances, but Christ almighty, the dialogue that they've had to suffer through and give those performances, giving those writing duties over to an algorithm would definitely be an upgrade, fucking Christ. But the actors do have a bit of a gripe because there's this new, you guys have watched anything new recently, you probably noticed some de-aging technology, and then also some weird deep fake stuff where you're using the likenesses, you're bringing back characters from actors who are dead, repurposing lines that they have, repurposing more than just, you know, patchwork together performances from other films. It's kind of getting to a point in time where you can start to move stuff together and piece it all together where you can get a pseudo performance out of it. Like, one of the biggest examples of this was Star Wars Rogue One, where you had Grand Moff Tarkin. There we go. I'm not a Star Wars guy, but it's Peter Sellers, right? Peter Sellers. What is this? Pink Panther? No, Peter Cushing. Right, he popped up in that film and everybody's like, you've been dead for a really long time. What are you doing up there? And then also they repurposed a bunch of other footage with Princess Leia after Carrie Fisher bit the dust. Well, actually, that's what precipitated her death. But anyways, that's kind of what the Actors Guild and the Actors Union is a lot more concerned with. What are we going to be doing? Okay, once you play the role of a character and then you want to decide to, you know, spin it off into a franchise, make a sequel off of it, but then you don't want to bring back the actor because they were too costly, but then you want to be able to repurpose some of the lines and the likenesses. I can understand that being a sticking point when it comes to negotiations. What's going to be the residuals? Is it going to be dependent on how much usage? What kind of consent are you going to have to get from the actors in the past? It starts to get a little bit sketchy, and then what do you end up doing? You got to go to the estate if you want to eventually do, I don't know, if we just progress this into the future, you want to tell another story. Let's say somebody wants to, I don't know, make a good mob film or something like that, and God forbid this ends up happening, but you know, time's not on his side. But if this is 10, 20 years into the future and they want to, you know, run back and a young Al Pacino to reprise a role in the Mafia, and then, okay, given the fact that there is how much content out there of him from back in the cut, repurpose that? How do we do that? How ethical is that? What I see from that is it's just, given the desert of star power that we see in Hollywood right now, being able to run back stars of yesteryear in new productions, that's just going to create this stalemate when it comes to progressing the industry and then also coming up with new ideas. Because if you thought that remakes and reimaginings were lifeless and uncreative, just imagine seeing John Wayne, Clint Eastwood, and Cary Grant on screen opposite Christian Bale and Russell Crowe in 312 to Yuma. Like, it's just, I don't know, I can see the benefits of it and I can see the negatives to it, but then I can also see that there's going to be something there to negotiate. It's just, if you're going to be striking now, and this was the thing with the writers back when they first went on strike, this isn't exactly the best time to go out there, given the box office that we're seeing very few hits and a whole lot of misses. It's kind of like a Dave Kingman at bat, a couple of home runs, but a whole lot of strikeouts. You're not exactly beginning from a point of strength here, because yeah, if you guys want to bitch, moan, whine, and complain about residuals, well, all those movie studios, they got everything that you have already filmed in the can. They can just go ahead and roll that out there, and oh great, we can save on marketing by not having this big red carpet gala that everybody just looks at and mocks, and it's like, wow, somebody actually said that in public. Holy fuck, I always thought that actors were stupid, but I didn't realize that they were this fucking dumb. So yeah, by doing this, you just end up saving those movie studios that you think are just so greedy and awful that are paying you your fucking salary exactly what you're deserved. But okay, fine, weird time to do this, but it seems like they do have a bit of an ally out there, and maybe is the reason why they are more likely to strike, because, well, the government has hopped in. We've seen it with the federal mediator that came in at the last second, didn't end up doing anything, but the White House, you know, in an attempt to cover up another investigation that's going on their premises right now, more on that tomorrow, had enough time to weigh in and say that actors, you know, everybody who stumped for Joe Biden needs to be paid a fair wage and benefits. Are you having a laugh? Some of the most privileged individuals that are out there, they need to have a fair share. Oh well, hey, good on Democrats for backing some of their biggest supporters. The White House has weighed in on SAG-AFTRA strike, a prospect that will lead to a shutdown of much of the entertainment business. President believes all workers, including actors, deserve fair pay and benefits. Oh my god, but I thought also the stance of the White House was the uber elites need to pay their fair share. but actors need to be oh, why would I expect sense from the Biden White House? Anyways, the president supports workers' rights to strike and hopes that parties can reach a mutually beneficial agreement, said Robin Patterson, the White House spokesperson. Okay. In May, President Joe Biden called for striking members of the Writers Guild in America to get a fair deal they deserve as soon as possible. That was all the way back in May. Last time I checked, we're in July, so that's fine. But here's what bugs me when it comes to that writer strike, and then for the actor strike. Like, okay, there's a reason we started with the box office reports and all of the budget surrounding these films. All that shit is getting so fucking bloated. Basically, to get a film to theaters at this point in time, you got to have a 9-digit budget, okay? And for the most part, you're into the 200, cresting the $300 million mark for what? A middling return. There's only so far that you can go before that bubble bursts and everything is coming back down to normal. I think we're seeing that. I think we're seeing that right now, because you're noticing that the films that aren't trying to push a certain message, they're getting the returns that they deserve. And then the films that are just, good old-fashioned storytelling or maybe a little bit of escapism, they're getting rewarded. And to try to hold up this as some sort of see, our writers just don't get appropriate returns. Somebody who wrote for SheHulk, okay, complaining about, I only get a $396 residual check for a streaming show that barely anybody watched, and one of the most awful streaming shows ever in history in the form of SheHulk. The fact that anybody gets paid to be on that show and doesn't have to hand out every single fucking penny of that residual check for anybody who watched or listened to a review of that show, you are in no position to be arguing for more pay. That's a residual check. What did you end up getting in order to write on that shit? And then there's just so many fucking brain dead idiots that are in there. The fact that every writer of that show isn't a millionaire is a crime. Are you out of your fucking mind? But this guy out here got a picture of himself with a WWE championship, so we already know that he's, short a few cards out of his deck. So yeah, if the actors are going to be tying themselves to that writer strike, maybe that'll precipitate some sort of movement when it comes to Hollywood, because yeah, they can probably wait out the actors and the writers longer than the actors and the writers can afford. Maybe it's this 4D chess move in order to squeeze out some of the less talented, diversity higher writers and actors that are out there. Maybe that's that big play, which I'm kind of leaning towards. More people bring it up, and it starts to make a lot of sense in order to try to cull the herd and make for tighter productions going forward, because of those elevated budgets that we're seeing from just about everything that's out there. It seems to check out, but hey, it'll be going on very, very shortly. I'm sure that now the actors are on strike as well. Just about everybody in Hollywood is now going to be feeling the pinch. So yeah, everybody's going to be a little bit more motivated to get to that negotiation table. So things are going to be moving. But for as much as I care, it's like there was one thing that I'm looking forward to that's coming out of Hollywood, and you know what? Hey man, I got good news on that one. So that is all that I can care about. House of the Dragon and industry, I don't know what the fuck industry is, but they will continue UK shooting despite the strike. So yes, House of the Dragon season 2 is going to be coming, and that's frankly all the fuck I care about. So with all of that said, and one thing before we go, I noticed something before I started to film this video right here. Something incredibly fucking weird ended up happening on the channel. Seemingly out of nowhere, running the numbers, taking a look, seeing if there's anything exceptionally egregious outside of the bounds on the channel or anything like that. On the YouTube side of things, Rumble is still doing fantastic. If I don't mention it, that means everything's going great, and if I do, well, it's normally just props anyways. But on the YouTube side, it just overnight, within like a 10-second period, I check for 1 second, and then I'm just down 20 subs. Like, the fuck is going on here? So if you've watched this far into the video and you have been subscribed in the past, just make sure that you're still subscribed, because I've heard some things that people have been unsubscribed and shit like that. This isn't like a call to action. This isn't one of those like, come and subscribe, fucking hack pieces at the end. I'm just saying, I noticed something exceptionally weird, and I just want to make sure that if you guys, have been entertained by the content, you've been informed by the content, continue to, keep it that way. Because frankly, hey man, if you guys check it out, that does fine for me. I just noticed some fuck shit that happens on the front end of things, and also noticing some weird stuff when it comes to putting out content. But that's all on me. I just want to make sure that you guys are taken care of. So like I said, with all that said, I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.